Welcome to our mini behind the scenes podcast series dedicated to our new project, The Field, an audio mystery set in the town of Llanantwn. In this series, we are joined by Hefin Robinson, a writer who we collaborated with on the project, and discuss the story behind making the series. The Field is very much an experiment in storytelling, looking at ways in which we can create new story structures that allow us to dwell within stories and feel them rather than intellectualize them. Over the next few podcast episodes, we will be discussing story, structure, creative process, and the challenges that come with it. We hope you enjoy. So we are nearing the launch of The Field, which you helped us develop from an initial idea, from a number of kind of scrappy thoughts on bits of paper to a fully formed pilot, an experiment, if you like. So we thought we'd maybe kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the making of The Field and some of the sort of behind the scenes elements for you listeners out there. So the format of the piece is that we've created these 5 strands, and each strand may follow a particular character. They're often located in one particular location. And within the strands, there are these little vignettes, which are little self-contained stories between 2 to 3 minutes. So we've got 5 strands and then vignettes within each strand. And then what we've done is that we've taken all of these little vignettes and we have basically randomized them. So with a roll of a dice, we have created our 5 episodes that you will encounter over the next few weeks. When we spoke to you about the project, this was maybe a good couple of years ago, we knew that we wanted to create something that perhaps wasn't a linear story. I think we sort of had, we kind of had some parameters or some kind of key parameters that we wanted to look at and play with. So a kind of non-linear narrative that could be explored through the eyes and the perspective of several characters from this imaginary or fictional town within Wales. And I guess for us, we were interested in experimenting with how can we tell a story in fragments that could shift in terms of time and space to a degree. And that was one of the moments when you're like, yes, count me in. I am definitely there. I'm interested. I am on board. So I guess that's sort of where we started. We had this idea of a non-linear narrative, a fragmented narrative that we could randomize in a way that could create a very different feeling to a traditional storytelling experience. And we knew very much that we wanted to make it within an audio kind of medium. And I guess that's sort of where we started. And we'd done an initial bit of work before that where we'd experimented with writing a few kind of scenes, a few characters. We'd got some actors in the room and sort of recorded those and tried some bits out. We looked at taking these really short kind of 2 to 3 minute scenes and kind of putting them into lots of different orders, literally by the roll of a dice. So we'd kind of come to you with this kind of like mess of thinking and scripts as well, where we'd sort of created this idea of a space, of a town in Wales, some aspects of characters, but that was kind of it. It was kind of like somebody had got a jigsaw puzzle and then kind of gone, right, help us sort this out. And obviously you were the person that helped us do that. So I guess that's sort of where we started with the project with yourself. And I guess we were interested in that non-linear structure to see if it would be something that would be a work and actually be of interest to people as a kind of listening experience. I
think if I remember, one of the, like at the beginning, it was almost, there was like that question of, can you follow a story if it's I think randomized was the word you used a lot then, wasn't it? It was like randomized content, because we talk about non-linear, and I tend to think of like Christopher Nolan or whatever in terms of the popular stuff. But this is going like a step further, isn't it? This is like generally a Christopher Nolan, even the more kind of extreme non-linear ones, they still have quite a clear beginning, middle, end, even if it's not in that order.
Do you think he's got the things in school that they had?
I hope so. Yeah.
Beginning. The beginning is this, the middle will be this, and the end will be this.
I think he works a bit like Julian. He's got these massive diagrams, ridiculously complicated that no one else understands.
I'll put some of them on the screen for YouTube viewers. Yeah.
Every single session we'd sit down.
Yeah, with
and
a different
at one
diagram.
point you'd see Julian grabbing the pen.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's go up to the flip chart.
Yeah.
There we go. There's a diagram brewing.
Yeah.
Do you remember there was one where it was like, okay, I'm going to need about 6 pieces of flip chart here, laid out in the wrong way.
I think you're right. I think it was the element of us trying to kind of take away control of the story beat, in a sense. Like that beginning, middle, and end, we theoretically kind of did introduce with a main character in the end, in terms of we do kind of have one strand that's a chronological A to Z full arc. It's still interspersed with all of these others. And I think maybe that middle bit is when it is that randomized nature. It was as a group of creatives, letting go of the control of those bits in between. And hopefully and the idea that they were all written in a almost like island kind of thing with a little mini start and end hook, So they were kind of fulfilling within themselves. But then the harsh contrast between that and the next one and the next one and so on, like you're saying, was the bit that was really kind of exciting to me anyway, personally, in the sense of just going, I wonder what logic someone will make from these two being back to back.
Yeah.
And I feel like that'll be what'll be interesting to see if people go, that was horrendous, or they'll be like, no, I really did enjoy that. I guess in a way, agency of like being able to create their own mythos.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is the fact that we're obviously meeting lots of different characters in lots of different strands, and some of them are linked and some of them are not. And it'll be interesting to see how people engage with the different characters. And I think the order in which the scenes are played out will change how you view certain characters and how you engage, and whether you warm to a character or you don't particularly enjoy them or whatever.
Absolutely. I can think of one, for example, within Taxi's thread, which you'll very quickly understand who the Taxi people are when you listen, where there's definitely that traditional arc of change for one of the characters there. I think actually, I don't know if they do change in the scene, whether it's actually within the village hall or the taxi where they actually do change. But, that kind of adaptation to the environment and the situation they're in. But I can imagine, if you did get them in a different order, like if you get the end bit first, that would massively soften your interpretation of this person compared to literally getting in the order that was, it was chronologically written, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess the original idea was that we would be giving everybody a unique version of this content. We sort of created a prototype platform that sort of randomized the content for you. But I guess we kind of quickly realized that in terms of to be able to get audience reach for this first kind of pilot, that we would actually publish it on platforms that people already were frequenting and were already engaging with. So for the purposes of this initial launch, what we've done is we've essentially taken all of the episodes that we've created together, and we've rolled a dice. And the dice roll has basically determined the order of the content over basically 5 episodes. So it is totally random in the sense of this has been kind of designed by chance with no kind of dabbling from our perspective. So in that respect, it is very much an experiment where even though in the kind of design of each scene, they are kind of vignettes within their own right. And we talked a lot about that structure, and Hefin, you'd really helped us with that, and in the writing of it, you've kind of made those scenes kind of very much those little orbs almost that exist by themselves. So as you kind of then flip between each strand in an episode, you've kind of got a flavour or a feeling from that episode that hopefully is contained enough to be satisfying in a sense. Maybe you have some questions, but they sort of exist as little pieces in their own right almost to a degree, don't they?
Yeah, and they ask questions. I think that's the thing. Just one little moment on its own is not giving you loads of plot, but it's, as you say, it's giving you feel, it's giving you character, it's giving you the world. And it's about how you take that and then what that makes you think about and where that takes your brain. And hopefully it makes you intrigued as to what that person's story is, and where they are on their story in that little bit, because it could be that they're at the end of the story or in the middle or whatever. So yeah, I think that's quite exciting, really, because you can make whatever you want of it, really. They exist on their own, or they exist within the context of something much bigger. And if you really hate it, you only ever hear one bit, and you don't bother with the rest of it.
Yeah.
But even then, hopefully you leave thinking, I wonder what that person's story was.
Yeah. And I guess, depending on how in-depth you want to be with the piece, it's how you then maybe make connections then between all of the threads, because there are kind of those connections between, that you can find. And I guess that's kind of part of the play of it, isn't it? That's part of the play of the piece, that we're inviting people to do that, to kind of maybe become not detectives, but to be those interrogators into this world and the characters and how they are connected with each other.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to touch on, is that idea of, like, it's not a mystery in the sense of there's a central question, like who killed blah, 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 or what happened to blah, blah, blah. It's much more a case of the mystery of what happened here and what are these characters going through. And yeah, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that sums it up really well. Yeah, what happened here is probably, the central question that we would like people to explore. And what can you create from what you hear and understand from that story. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Crafted Reality with me, Alison John, and my partner in crime, Julian Sykes. Remember to like and subscribe and share with anyone you think might be interested. And if you really like the podcast, remember we have a brand new Patreon page. The link is in the show notes. We appreciate all of your support. Thanks for joining us again, and we will catch you next time.